Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to joining our programmatic webinar titled Supply Side Programmatic Evolution. So firstly, I would like to thank you, all of the participants, and look forward to meeting all of you in person in the future. So today we have very comprehensive content, but before that, I would like to go through a little bit the rundown. So we will have Patrick and Roger to give us two keynotes about different topics. And then we'll follow with a panel discussion with Andy, Patrick, and team later on, which is moderated by me, to talk about some challenge on programmatic on the sell side landscape. So before we pass the mic to Patrick, I would like to talk about a little bit about Hong Kong IAB, in case some of you is not familiar with our association at the moment. So we are a nonprofit association, and our mission is to help the Hong Kong advertising and marketing professionals getting the most out of digital. So currently we have over 100 corporate members. So if any of you are not our member yet, please feel free to leave your contact with us, and then we will have someone to follow up with you to get the membership for you. So now I would like to pass the floor to Patrick Ng from Networld Technology, who is the head of data, to talk about the programmatic journey of Networld. Thank you, Patrick.
Thank you, Alex. I'm privileged to come here to talk about our journey in programmatic. In 1994, when the internet was young, people were excited, and there was a popular website called Hotwired. And in October in that same year, something new has happened to the website. Can you notice? There was an ad banner. Well, you may think there's no big deal. I've seen ad banners like 100 times every day. But this is different, because what you see here is the very first online ad banner in history. So you can think of this as the mother of all ad banners. And at that time, there was no concept of CPM, ad network, DSP, and all these confusing terms. The advertiser simply paid $30K to have the ad displayed for 3 months. And guess what the CTR of this first banner is? Just guess, okay? It is the jaw-dropping 44%. I think at that time, people were quite innocent, and even the ad is a novelty for them, so they just click the ad. So compared with what we have today, I think life seems simple and easy back then. Now, let's fast forward a decade and talk about some Networld's historical moments. So in 03 and 08, we launched Discuss, YouWant, and then Price.com. And at that time, just like everyone else, all our ad revenues, most of them come from direct sales. But of course, we have some remnant traffic or unbooked ad impressions. So in 05, we signed a deal with Yahoo so that we can display contextual ads on our pages, which is similar to what you get from Google AdSense. So I think we can consider that as our first step into programmatic. And at that time, our direct sales revenue is still much bigger than that we get from programmatic. So things are okay, but is that good enough? Well, to answer that question, I want to talk more about ad impression first. What's an ad impression? It is the moment when some ad units are displayed in front of real users. And for ad impressions, there is actually a relationship about supply and demand. The publishers, they have supplies of ad impressions. Of course, publishers will set a floor price, which is the minimum price. And actually, each ad impression is unique. Unique in like who is watching, what channel, time and location, etc. On the other side, we have advertisers who have demands for ad impressions. Of course, advertisers have budget, and they want to show the ad to the right person at the right channel. So with this supply and demand, we, need a matchmaker. Now, the direct sales actually act as the matchmaker, but they are doing that in bulk and on a one-on-one basis. This is good, but sometimes it's not scalable when you consider there are millions of unique impressions happening every second. Because of all this, something new has to happen. So in 2009, a thing called real-time bidding was born. It enables high-volume automated bidding in real time. Now here's the picture. On the left, you have publishers accessing a supply-side platform. On the right, you have agency trading desk accessing demand-side platform. In the middle, you have the ad exchange and some ad networks. So here's how it works. When ad impressions are available, let's say in our websites, we send ad requests to SSP so that we make our ad impressions available for bidding. Now, for the agencies, they use DSP to continuously bid for impressions for the campaigns that they are running. And in the middle, the ad exchange will run open auctions for each impression. And the winner will have the chance to place the ad on that ad unit. Now, guess how long it would take for all this bidding and winning to take place? It all happens under 0.1 second. And it is just quite amazing when you consider there are millions of these auctions happening every second. Now, with real-time bidding, there are mutual benefits. For publishers, us, it means ad impressions are accessible by more advertisers, and we get more revenue from those remnant traffic. And for advertisers, it means they have access to more ad impressions. And with the wide use of targeting, they can improve the efficiency of the campaigns. So it's a win-win solution. Now, what I just showed you is what we call the open auction, and it's just one type of that transaction types. And you might have heard of other terms such as PG, PD, or PA. Well, actually, to be honest, there are so many terms, sometimes it can be confusing, but it is not as bad as you think. So basically, it boils down to three questions. Is the ad impressions or the inventory, is it being auctioned? If it is yes, is the auction public or private? And if it is not an auction based, whether the ad inventory is guaranteed or not. Basically, based on the answers to these three questions, or two questions, if you follow the path, then you come up with these different terms to describe what each combination stands for. And sometimes it's confusing because there are different other names which mean the same thing, but you will get used to it. And this shows all the transaction types that we are using, and we handle our ad impressions in this priority order. First, we make sure we fulfill all the direct orders, and then the private auctions, finally, the open auctions. And if it's not complex enough, I'm going to introduce another term called header bidding, which has to deal with the open auctions part in this picture. So the open actions is usually carried out in a manner called waterfall. For instance, we have an ad impression with a floor price of 250 CPM. The first ad network will try to bid. Let's say this one only bid for $2, which is below the mean price, so it will lose. And then here comes the next ad network bidding. This time it bids 275, which is above the floor price, so it wins, which is good. However, if you look at the whole full picture, these two ad networks, even though they plan to bid for a high price, but they are not called, so they cannot win the bid. And for us, publisher, which is not good because we are leaving money on the table. To resolve this, there's another auction type called header auction. Basically, the ad request is sent to all the four ad networks, and they all bid at the same time. And the highest bidder will win the auction. So you can see the difference between these two auctions. In both cases, even though we have the same four ad networks, in the header auction, we have the higher winning bid, which is good for us and also good for ad network C, who actually is really determined to win that auction. And why is it called header bidding? What a strange name. Well, if you look at the HTML page, on the left, we have the header auction, which is run first, which is triggered by a tag. And after it is done, we also run the waterfall auction. And the tag, which initialized the header bidding, actually is placed in the header part of the page. And that's why it is called header bidding. Now I've covered header bidding. Is at the end of our journey? Of course not. If you look at a marketer's goal, I think it should be to get the right message to the right person at the right time, in the right channel, and also for the right reason. And we want to help the marketers in finding the right person. In Networld portals, each month we have millions of users, of unique users, doing e-commerce and forum discussions. And from all these activities, the user actually reveals themselves, such as who they are, or such as whether they are parents, or what they want. For example, they may want to buy a TV, or they are really into financial investment. From all this behavior, we can create audiences and make them available on Networld and third-party portals. For example, in Networld, we use the DMP to collect user data and create audiences. And then we export these audiences to different DSP. And as advertisers or agencies, you connect to your DSP, and then you can find our audiences over there. Once you have found them, you can use them in your campaign to target the right people. Once again, on Networld or on other third-party sites. And if you use the audiences wisely, we hope that we can help you to target the right people and make your campaign more effective. Now, in looking back, we actually have witnessed the evolution of the programmatic development. So we start from pure sales, direct sales, move down to LTB, header bidding, all the way to audience targeting. And I could have ended my talk in here, but behold, there's a big challenge ahead. And what is that? Can you guess what that is? Yes. It is the cookie monster. Then it means the end of the third-party cookies. You might have heard of a thing called ITP, which came from Safari and Firefox, or the Privacy Sandbox, which will come from Chrome in less than 2 years. All this means the end of third-party cookies. And what is the impact? Basically, impact everything that we know of in the ad tech, such as conversion tracking, frequency cap, retargeting, etc., etc. It is actually, it impacts us quite severely. But to notice that actually there's less impact to our walled garden friends. But to us, the impact is big. But is that the end of the world? Of course not. There are many initiatives going on, such as Universal ID without third-party cookies, or IAB Tech Lab is holding a redesign project called Project React. They try to redesign the ad tech landscape, preparing for this big change. And we, Networld, is also looking at these different options to make sure that we are well prepared when these changes are coming. In summary, programmatic will continue to be the big trend. And the ad spending there will continue to grow and be bigger. And it is also a fast-moving ecosystem. But we will continue to invest, learn, and embrace the latest because it is worth doing it. Lastly, the end of the third-party cookie, it is a real challenge for the rest of us. But facing this challenge, we believe that united, we can still innovate, survive, and thrive together. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. It's very informative. Now we will like to take a moment to introduce our panel discussion panelists here. So we have Andy Chung from GroupM. He is head of programmatic and also GroupM, and also managing director of Xaxis. And we have Patrick, we already introduced from Networld. And we also have Tim from P&G as a brand director and head of media. So Today, we themed this event for supply side programmatic evolution because we want to shift the focus from the buy side, which we have already talked a lot in previous programmatic events. We want to shift a little bit to supply side. What is going on the sell side? How can we push forward on the publisher side? But at the same time, with all the sharing from Verizon, from Networld, with all the inspiration you guys have shared, what about on the buy side? How this publisher, how the sell side is working on different project, different initiative to accommodate the needs of the buy side from the advertiser, from the agency. So that's why we have this panel discussion, having both buy side and sell side sitting together. So first, thank you again. So let's start right in. I actually prepared some questions for you guys to start the discussion. Firstly, I want to ask about Patrick. How do you think a publisher can activate the inventory via programmatic effectively? So you have shared a lot of suggestions. Do you have any specific example or any suggestion that you can make to other publishers who may not sophisticated now on programmatic? How would you suggest them?
Well, I think programmatic is the trend. So, and actually there are lots of best practices out there if you search the web. So I think to advise other publishers, it will be to just experiment with different ways. This is how we did it. And also make sure that you know what hurdle you have to jump over and when you try it. For instance, when we switch over lots of our items to programmatic, one big challenge we had is that we use an in-house ad server at that time. And so we have to move all our stuff to the ad server that we are using today, which enables RTP. And another challenge is that if your company has a team of direct sales, then you have to train them to, of course, I mean, direct sales continues to be running for our company. But since we have programmatic and we can also sell PG, PD, and all other PMP deals, so we have to train our salespersons to sell those deals and make sure that you have a reasonable commission scheme, and so that they are happy and everybody will be happy. Yeah.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I think it's very straightforward recommendation, which is really great. So what about Andy as an agency when you talk to different publisher during this programmatic transition? How would you suggest those who are not there yet? What do you want from them on programmatic?
Well, well, I think the answer is back to Patrick's. Just he did a good start. Is you have to be technology enabled. So firstly, if publishers you are not yet tapped into the digital or programmatic ecosystem, you have to approach, you have to find a SSP. Or even further, when the cookie-less environment happens, you even have to think about the DMP. So first of all, I would suggest other publishers, firstly, think about find the right SSP, do some testing, try to start to allocate the ad impressions through the SSP. Then and this is only step one. Then you need to further monitor, test and do lots of test and learn. That is the good, the only way to start to tap on the programmatic trend.
Yeah, so that's a good intel, because I think a lot of time when publisher doing the transition, they might be afraid of unknown technology, afraid of new things. So at the end of the day, we have to try. We don't know what we can do or we cannot do if we are not going to try, right? So I see Tim already raising his hand, want to talk more. But not there yet. We have a question for you now. We have a question specifically for you now, which is, what's the impact for you? Like after all these years that you have been working with different programmatic vendor, publisher, shifting from direct IO buys to programmatic, how does it impact your media strategy? How does it change your brand's thinking about digital advertising?
Look, Alex, I'm just gonna have to ignore your question first and go back to question one because I like to chip in. Look, being the only layman here, I like to provide some layman's perspective. So I think in the looking at all the research that we can in Hong Kong, everybody is embracing programmatic. At least every advertiser, most of us are embracing programmatic. And if we think it is an irreversible trend, I think the question is not if the publishers should embrace programmatic. It is how they should embrace programmatic. And I think there is no better way to learn about something than to do it. And I know, talk to SSP, talk to tech partners, open up the inventory one at a time and learn. And I think my another piece of advice would be, do not get distracted by programmatic. I think programmatic is something fancy, complex, technical. But look, I think don't get distracted, and you guys have to focus on what you guys do best. And I think the only way for publishers to win in programmatic is to do their core job best, because that is the only way they can bring in the quality traffic. That's the only way that people are going to spend quality time on the platform, and that's going to allow you to command a much better price. So that would be my advice to the publishers. And going back to your questions, and I'm just going to give a really standard P&G reply to that. And look, I think programmatic is a really exciting revolution of the industry because it consolidates different channels onto one platform. In P&G, we've always been planning for the consumers, right? Starting from the big ideas and everything, we've always been thinking, okay, what do they want? Okay, who are they? What do they want? But then in the past, we've always stopped at media planning and activation because the different channels are working in silos. And how can I activate that? So I think programmatic is interesting because it puts the audience or the consumers back at the center of media or marketing. And that's going to allow us marketers to think about, okay, how should we plan the experience for the audience much better? And I think that's the really cool impact that programmatic has on us. I'm not saying we're there yet. I think that is the ultimate promise of programmatic itself, but I think we're on the right track and we'll get there.
Thank you, Tim. I think your first response I also want to add on, which is you raised a very good point. At the end of the day, programmatic is just a way of purchasing media. At the end of the day, publisher they're good at creating content. They should add value to the content in order to create traffic. That's the end goal of all the publisher. So and thank you. As I think P&G as one of the largest advertiser in the world, everyone is looking upon you guys, how you guys are seeing your media strategy. So it's great. Now we know this is gonna be a huge progress for P&G to start purchasing media on programmatically. This is a need on the buy side. So on the sell side, you mentioned a little bit, Patrick. You mentioned a little bit on the impact of the programmatic transition on the sales team or even on your ad server. So is there anything else you guys you can share with other publisher regarding this impact on programmatic, so the other publisher can get prepared when they embrace this?
Okay, thank you. There are two things I want to mention. One is, before we switch to programmatic, actually on our portals, we designed some really customized ad format for some of our advertisers. Okay, but once we switch to programmatic, because we now have to follow the standards by IAB, so we can no longer use those highly specialized formats. So that is one thing. And also, once you are in programmatic, you are indeed competing with other portals. So you're in a big pool, and advertisers can bid for you or may not. Actually, they may not even know. It is the auction thing which will try to bid for you or not. So we have to improve our viewability of ad units, the performance of our pages, and all that other stuff. So it forced us to basically to create a better web page for advertising, I would say. So I think as a whole, it's good for the industry and for publishers. So bear in mind that you are entering a different competition landscape when you're in the programmatic, which is rewarding.
Thank you. Thank you, Patrick. I think it's a very good advice for all the publishers that I think some of them are already facing it. So, as Andy said, we gotta try, right? Those questions will warm up, by the way. So now we are getting to more deep dive the discussion, which is something you guys already mentioned earlier by Roger, by you during your presentation about data. Yes. So it's actually now the key battlefield, I would say, in programmatic, because at the end, data will affect whether a buyer can target the audience effectively, right? So how should publisher can utilize the first party data moving forward? Is there any way, like for example, Networld is doing, or from Andy, as you can see with other publisher, is there any way that the publisher can do to provide more value for the buyer when they buy on your inventory? Maybe Andy, you can talk about it first.
Yeah, sure. It's so good that today we have both Networld and Verizon Media. We are actually for GroupM, we are both working very closely with Verizon Media and Networld. They are the two, I would say, the two most advanced players in Hong Kong. And we have been partnering with them. And the thing is, the solution is for publishers, because talk about the publishers, their website, their properties, they are the closest touch point to the visitors, which is also the client's target audiences, right? So those are the most, actually, in our perspective, actually those are the most valuable record or behavior, whatever you call it. And I would say for publishers, if I think forward, if one day, 2 years or sooner, really Google Chrome really blocks all the third-party cookies, to me, I would say from the buy-side perspective, it is a slight disadvantage for us, a slight impact. But on the other hand, for the sales side, publisher side, I would say it's an advantage for publishers. Why? Because we can't really rely on all the cookies, all the behavioral targeting anymore. But maybe there are some new solutions. But at the end of the day, you guys, the publishers, you have the most valuable data. So like Networld or Verizon, they are already building different segments. They wrap with their data. For example, Hong Kong citizen looking to travel to Japan, of course not these days, maybe after the COVID-19, then they might naturally browse maybe the Yahoo travel section, Networld travel section, right? So when all the visitors browse these sections, both Yahoo and Networld, they have all these kind of valuable data, and they can easily to wrap all this data to build these segments, and then overlay with their media, all the inventories. So I would see this absolutely good news for publishers, in my perspective.
I agree with what Andy said about like data is becoming more and more important, especially and also first-party data. And I think for publishers to get on the so-called the data bandwagon, okay, investing in a DMP is one step. Actually, is one major step. But here, there is something about Hong Kong which is special, which is the scale of many publishers may not be big enough to for them to easily adopt a DMP solution, okay, because of the price tag, basically. However, and also this because of the scale, if you, let's say I have an audience with only, let's say, 3,000 people, it is not going to work very well. So I think publishers, some of them, they may need to find partners and band their audiences together and sell them together. That could be one solution. And actually, as a matter of fact, Networld, we are open to that. So if we have publishers who are interested in working with us to group our audiences together, and actually we are open to talk about that. So I think that is because of the special situation in Hong Kong where it is only one city, just like Singapore. We need scalability, and to achieve scalability, we need to group together some stuff.
Okay, layman's perspective. Look, Alex, you ask how can publishers better use and own and use data, first-party data. I think, okay, as a business person, I think to answer that question, before that, we have to know why people are buying first-party data in the first place. And that's because publishers know something that we don't, right? That's the fact. Like the example that Andy gave about, maybe travel agencies looking for people who like to travel to Japan, right? It's something that they don't know and you guys know. That's why they're buying. So I think every publisher needs to answer two questions, right? One is, what is it that I know, but advertisers don't know, right? Because that is what they are going to buy from you. And the other question is, okay, what is it that I know, advertisers want to know, but they don't have, and then other publishers also do not have, right? Because that is your competitive advantage. So if I can just offer a piece of advice, it might sound really ignorant because I don't really know how publishers work. I would say, grab the sales team and then the editorial team together, right? They each own a piece of the puzzle. I'm always going back to the core business of a publisher. I think the salespeople know who your clients are, what their needs are, right? And the editorial team is going to know, okay, what kind of content can we produce the best? And when you marry the two pieces, you're going to find a sweet spot of something that people want and you can produce it really well. And I think that's a great start.
Thank you, guys. I think I hope the publisher on online now are taking notes from your comment, team, because I think all of you give a very good a comment on actually what data means to both buy side and what sell side can do. So we know data now is changing. We know cookies is moving away with something we don't know yet what it is. Is there anything you guys are already working on or get prepared for that? Even though we still is like very initial stage, I just want to get a sense how everyone in the industry also let the audience know what else they can start looking into before it comes. Anyone want to start?
And in my slide, in my presentation, I mentioned that there are two things. One is universal ID, and also the project React from IAB Tech. Actually, we are already investigating and working on the universal ID part. And we will also think of ways to improve or to enlarge our first-party data, okay, and which is like the birthday cake, as mentioned by Roger. You want more birthday cakes, basically. And the second thing is we have also joined the task force of the Project React. So we are trying to get regular updates from them because we want to basically stay alert to what's happening and get our whole architectural technology getting ready for that, because we know the impact will be huge. So we don't want to be left behind when that happens.
I would say actually, like Tim mentioned, in the layman term, is back to the basic. I think I would encourage publishers to think from advertisers' perspective, what they are looking for. They invest on media. What are they looking for? They are looking for the outcome. They are looking for the result. Actually, they don't care how much, what is the actual, all the details, data, blah, 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 all the technology, how it plays. They just want the result. So if they want the cost per acquisition, cost per landing, cost per lead, that's it. So I would say it's not an easy answer. There is no easy solution for publishers. But for bigger publishers like Verizon or Networld, maybe you guys can think in advance, like you have lots of data, lots of campaigns, lots of case studies. Maybe you can think in advance to offer some cost per X, cost per outcome pricing model. Then it's most easiest way that to attract advertisers.
I don't have much to add. Look, it's the only question I cannot answer, right? You're asking what I'm doing already, which I can't tell you, but then I cannot provide a more technical answer than these guys. So I'm thinking, look, layman's perspective again, and I think Andy's spot on. I don't freaking care what's going to replace third-party cookies. So as long as I can generate enough business to sustain the brands, etc. So, borrowing from my P&G's experience, I would not be so hung up about what's going to replace third-party cookies. I don't really care what's the new technology. But what I really care is what I wanted to achieve, which is to drive business. And so if I frame this question differently, I would then be able to look at the challenge very differently. We might be looking at a completely different activity system, and then the technology is just a part of it. So I don't know what's going to happen, but I agree with what Patrick shared before. I think it's going to be a change of the ecosystem. So it's not just a few pieces of technology, it's how we do things.
Thank you.
And just want to add that what I learned today is that I'm the only one who cares.
I think, yeah, at the end of the day, the publisher care what the buy side want, right? So what they want is from you the outcome, and then you figure out how to get to that outcome. I think it's fair, right? Great. Oh, quick reminder to the audience, feel free to add your question. If you have anything you want to know, you want to hear from the panelists, feel free to add in on the chat box. And we all know that now the economy is in a challenging situation. Let's look forward. How do you guys see in 1 year or 3 years time programmatic in Hong Kong? How would you guys foresee it will be? Or is there any wish list from you guys? I want this happen in Hong Kong as soon as possible. Is there anything you guys can think of? Whoever got the idea first can talk.
They have them.
No, look, I thought that was the previous question was the only question I could not answer, and this one I cannot answer, right? If I want something, I'll grab Patrick and talk to him in private. I wouldn't tell everybody here. But then if I can go back to your point about the economy and everything and how it's going to change the way we do things. And look, I think the time is really tough now. Like people are being let go, people going on furlough. You know what? I think speaking on behalf of all the advertisers out there, cutting ad spend is the last thing we want to do. Trust me, I think at this difficult time, we want to increase our ad spend. Because if we can find a way to generate business with media, we're going to pour all our money into it. So we want to invest in the right media to get us out of the trouble in the first place. And we're not doing that because maybe we've gotten too complacent. We haven't been looking at the performance enough. So I think one way that we might emerge from this crisis stronger as an industry is that we no longer work with each other as just media partners. And going back to Annie's point earlier, I don't really care what media solution that is as long as that works. So I think we're gonna focus a lot more on the business outcomes together. So we're not tackling media problems, but how do we drive business? I think that's the first thing. The second thing is, I think this crisis, and actually a lot of the crises in the past, have gotten people to, especially publishers, to think about the business model, right? How can they come up with a business model that is best insulating them from external fluctuations? And I think we touched on a couple of things today, right? We talked about tapping into programmatic and diversify the revenue stream. We talked about maybe entering the data business. I think there are a lot more models that people in the West have tried, right? Like 100 different versions of the subscription model, crowdfunding, etc. And yeah, I think it is a right time for the publishers to think about the business model and emerge better. So I think that's a silver lining, and that's what I'm hoping to happen in the next few years.
Well said. What's the question again? 1 to 3 years wish, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I would say, because today I did cover many answers towards online publishers, like start to find an SSP on board programmatic, think of create some inventory plus data deal segments. Now I want to talk something broader, talk about programmatic. Because in the past few years, for GroupM, we have been thinking, we have a strong belief is, well, whatever media it is, if it is measurable, it will be programmatic. Okay. So now we can see even outdoor billboard, we can utilize DSP to run the programmatic outdoor billboard. We have some technology to run the programmatic display of video synchronized with the TV ad. All of these solutions, we can do it through programmatic. But what is missing is, I really hope is, everything is talk about the daily user behavior. So I would say, the point is, the only thing missing is, think about the programmatic out of home. And when we browse all the videos on all the second device, we are missing a true measuring cross-device, high recognized, high reputation companies that can really measure all the cross-screen, all the reach, so that it is not only talk about the traditional TV game. I want to really have a really third-party companies to really measure all the cross-screen, or talk about all the video reach. So there's something but in UK or in Europe, there are already those kind of companies to measure how many eyeballs or people reached from a programmatic outdoor billboard from all those video solutions. Yeah.
I want to add on before passing to Patrick for your feedback, because that's a very good point. Measurement is something the global measurement company will take Hong Kong like as a secondary market. So maybe they have developed something in UK or US. So it's a great shout out to all the data measurement verification partners. Some of them are on our IAB membership. So start thinking about Hong Kong. We need them. I think agency wants them because the advertiser needs those verification to justify why they need to spend on programmatic and why those new channels are valuable to them. It's a very good point. Thank you, Andy. Patrick, what's your thought?
Well, I want to add on to what you said about measurement. I hope in 1 to 3 years, actually, I hope the industry can solve the what they call the attribution problem. For instance, I mean, the person might have looked at the same ad on 10 different websites, but only on the 10th website that he or she clicks on the ad, the last click, which gets all the money, which is actually not a very ideal model, because all the first 9 different websites, they attribute to the whole customer journey And so I hope that can be resolved. What it has been raised out for many years, but as an industry, we need have some concerted effort to solve this problem. And the second thing about programmatic is the number of devices will just be getting more and more, and people are going to spend more time online on different websites and different apps as well. And so as advertiser, you no longer can use the old way, which is to buy ad impressions from a certain publishers. It won't work anymore. So coupled with data, especially such as from us, we help advertisers to able to show the ad no matter where that person visits. Okay, I think that is the natural way things are developing. But when we talk to agencies or talk to advertisers, we discover that to switch the thinking from the previous way, which is to think about publishers, think about section buys, one-off sites or the whole buy, into buying based on users, it takes some time to switch to this new way of thinking. And as an industry, I think we need to do more education on that, and hopefully the whole industry will be more and more comfortable with this new way of buying and make a better use of the ad dollars and make the campaign more efficient.
Alex, can I add something? Sure. To echo Patrick's point, I really like his first point about attribution, the last click model, the last click conversion. So that one actually for GroupM, it also depends on how open our clients are. Some of our clients, they know it's not 100% fair to only count last click conversion. So some clients, they are open. After our explanation, some clients, they are not only looking into the last click conversion, they are also looking to the fair, the whole conversion journey, and count, and we have some sort of formulas and calculations to count all the assisted conversions. So think about like a football game, not only the striker wins everything. From the back-end field, midfield, everyone assisted. But I would say for this measurement thing, maybe this is a good thing for IAB. I know IAB, they have a measurement and analytics committee, right? So yeah, I think the whole industry we need to voice out the importance of not only looking at the last click conversion. Yeah.
Thank you. I think the requests from advertiser, but at the same time, we also have a lot of education on the buy side as well to make the whole ecosystem work better. So let's take a look on some questions from our audience. There are quite a few actually. Let's start with Joel Zhe. So consumers in some markets like Thailand are more comfortable to share their personal data to advertisers. However, Hong Kong consumers seem more conservative on this. Do you have any suggestion for the buy side or for anyone in this industry to break through this and motivate consumer to share their PII as part of their first party data for brands? I think it's a very challenging question. In short, is there any way to get more precise first-party data from consumer, something even PII information that can help the brands to make a better retargeting or follow-up media strategy? I think it's really a tough question because at the end of the day, Tim got some respond.
Look, I don't have an answer. If I knew, I would be doing it already. But I'd like to say, I've looked at a lot of companies trying to do that. I think they have to first ask themselves a question of why are they collecting PII in the first place, right? what are they doing with it? Are they able to provide much better experience to the consumers? At the end of the day, it's an exchange of value, right? What are you giving them? And I've seen a lot of companies sitting on a lot of PI without doing much about them, right? And that's the last thing we want. So, well, I don't know if I don't know the answer to your question, but I'll be asking if I was meeting you face to face, we can have a better chat of okay, why are you doing this, and we can look at all the values together, and if it makes sense.
Okay. Let's see what other question we have. That's an interesting one. What are your views on brand suitability now that COVID is the new norm? I think this question is very short. Maybe there's some elaboration behind. If we rephrase this question a little bit, what should brand do with COVID-19 now? Is there any suggestion that you guys have on programmatic for the brands to take care of it?
Clients or publishers?
Anyone, like from different perspective, how do you guys see under these circumstances what brands should do, or even what publisher can do?
I would say for GroupM, we are one of the largest agencies in the world, and we are also working closely with many big clients. But unfortunately, under COVID-19, I would say maybe 90% they are cutting their budget this year. So actually, everyone is still monitoring the situation. The thing is, personally, I would say I definitely know many marketers, they originally have lots of campaigns they prepared to launch, but simply due to COVID-19, they pause and just pending. So they have their content, they have their strategy, they have their roadmap, they have their products to be rolled out. But to me, if you ask me within these 2 months, I would say if you show a hard display banner or hard video, I'm not sure whether it's the best strategy. I would say maybe think about some soft advertising, maybe native ad or influencers marketing. Those maybe some kind of a softer message to reach your audience in another kind of way.
Yeah, look, I'll try to attempt the brand suitability question as a brand owner. I think COVID-19 will pass, right? But the brand will remain. So don't do anything too tactical during this period of time. There's a lot of things you can do if you just want short-term results, right? You can, you can come up with all the claims that look outrageous, but people might like you because they are really conscious about health and stuff. And you can always place your ad in the content farm where they're spreading false news, but they're attracting a lot of eyeballs. But I think as a brand owner, we have to be responsible for the brand, and the brand is going to stay. So just be sensible and try not to do something that's going to hurt you in the long term.
Thank you. So we got a question for Patrick, actually. You showed the different stages Networld went through, from direct sales to programmatic to audience. How long did each stage take roughly? How is the journey for you guys?
I would say from switching all from, first we have direct sales. I would say from we switching full force to LTB, and all the way to now we are selling data to DSP. I think it would take about 4 to 5 years, But it might take longer for us because we were experimenting with something new. And I think nowadays for publishers, they have a head start because all the lessons have been learned by other people, and they can find some best practice out there So even though it takes a few years for us, but maybe it would only take a few months for them. Yeah.
I totally agree. Because as a DSP, we also work with different publishers. At the beginning, it really take a long time. Like you guys are like one of the pioneer doing this kind of transition. But nowadays, like last year, we have seen some publishers in Hong Kong they haven't do programmatic at all previously, but now they are almost 70% on programmatic, which is a huge success transition. So just a kind of reminder, it's not scary transition. It's gonna be smooth if you find someone who can help you. So let me see if there's other questions that we can ask the client. Okay. So Google's block third-party cookies in the future, with the targeting become less accurate, and it means third-party would be less accessible. Is that correct? I actually I want to respond to this one first. I think it's like because based on Roger's presentation, based on Patrick's presentation, and also what IAB is also working on, it's not going to go away. The way of targeting will remain. It's just another way to do it. It's just data should always remain because at the end of the day, I think even as a consumer, we don't want to see something totally irrelevant. It doesn't make sense to me. Then I will get bored, will be get offended when I browse the internet. So that's how I say it's gonna be just something different. It's just we don't know yet. Yeah, that's my thought. What do you guys think?
The answer is yes. But the solution from my personal point of view is based on cookie-less environment. We are actually thinking of like some contextual targeting. For contextual targeting, it is content relevant to the products that our clients they are driving to the market, and that also leads to Tim's point is for publishers, you have to strengthen what is the strong area of yourself, of your properties, of your websites. So if you got a fruitful, lots of variety contents, then when agencies like us, when we utilize contextual targeting, the more contents you generate, the higher chance that we can show that contextual targeting banners near your articles. So this is number one. Number two is back to previous discussion is we will also actively look at all the publishers, their first-party data, data with inventory segments.
Okay, thank you. I think this is really good. I'm really glad I invite all of you here because you guys made the discussion very fruitful, and I hope the audience feel the same. So thank you again for your participation. So now. So now, before I pass the floor back to Alvina, to IAB, I want to also talk about some new initiative that our programmatic committee is doing. We will be launching LumaScape, a programmatic LumaScape for Hong Kong specifically. The idea is to, I think many people have seen a LumaScape from different countries or globally, but we are making this for Hong Kong specifically. So we will only include the company who has active business or active activity in Hong Kong market, so that different player in the industry can know which partner or which vendor they can look for when they need specific solutions. So this is an initiative that we started this year. So we will be launching it through IAB platform. And I also want to take a quick moment to thank you the programmatic committee members. Dan Lee from Derify, Jenny from Verizon Media, Jimmy from Bliss, Oliver from GroupM, and also Sihao from Sander, and of course, well, myself from the Trade Desk, Alex. It's been a great honor. Thank you. It's been a great honor working with everyone and also put this session together. Now I'm gonna pass the floor to Alvina to talk about some follow-up on this event.
Thank you, Alex, and thank you for all the speakers and panelists. I see there's still a lot of questions coming in, but hopefully we try to address it later. But for today's event to be so successful, it was actually we have to show appreciation to the desk for providing the venue, and I have Cecilia Chen here who will briefly introduce the desk to you all.
Thanks, Alvina, and thanks all the IAB team. Pleasure to have everyone here. I see some familiar faces. That's so nice. Thanks for giving me this 1 minute to share a bit about the desk. We are a co-working space in Hong Kong. Definitely, we have event spaces, so that's why we wanted to share with everyone about our event space today. All our spaces are on Hong Kong Island, which is 5 minutes walk maximum from all the MTR stations. So we have spaces in Causeway Bay, Admiralty, Sai Wan, and Sheung Wan. So our event spaces can be, have so many different setups, from a simple seminar to classrooms, exams, forums, and also, even wedding and some workshops. So maximum we can host up to 400 people as a theater setup. So just feel free to come over to our spaces, check it out, and see if you guys need it for any of your events. We're a one-stop shop. All the preparations and on-site support, we are there ready for you. So back to you, Alvina. Thanks.
Thank you. So yes, please come to the desk for your future event. And talking about events, our next event will be on the 24th of June, 4 to 5:30. It will still be a webinar. Hopefully, we'll resume to normal physical event by July. And next event will be presented by our social committee on the topic of social commerce from small to big. And it's our honor to have Dov Mack from A.S. Watson's group, the creator of the character Watzai, and also one of the Hong Kong's hottest celebrity on KOL selling shoes online, who managed to sell thousands of shoes and make millions of revenue in just 2 hours. It's hello from Jagger Chan. So as you see that I'm talking in Chinese because next event will be in Cantonese. So promotion will come out shortly, so please stay tuned and like our Facebook and LinkedIn page for future events. So yes, thank you for joining today's webinar. And if you haven't joined IAB Hong Kong yet, please stay connected with all the top marketers to join us. You can subscribe to our email list or join our membership. So contact me if there's anything. I'm Alvina. So if that's all for now, so yes, like our YouTube channel so for more future events. Thank you very much once again. Thank you, Roger, Patrick, Andy, and also team, and also the wonderful programmatic committee. Thank you. So see you all.